Hey, I'm Alec Benjamin, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
What's up, guys? Rob here, Front Row Live Entertainment. I am finally hanging out with Alec Benjamin, and I'm super excited because I've been a fan of yours for some time. Your songwriting is just incredible. You have this tendency of taking me into this place of whatever it is that you're writing about. You could write about an ant that's outside, and like I'll fall in love with that songwriting. Before we really dive in and talk about the music, congratulations with 1 billion streams on technically the debut single, right?
Yeah, technically. Yeah, I mean, thank you. Yeah, it's I feel like I don't know what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's very exciting. The plaque was cool, and yeah, I never imagined I'd have a billion of anything. So it's exciting. I suppose I don't. It's not. Like, I don't have a billion of it. People have played it a billion times,
Right.
but to have my name associated with the number 1 billion is pretty cool.
And at the same time that it's like such a vulnerable topic, like as an artist, some artists say like it's their job, it's their duty to kind of speak about what we can't speak about, but I feel like that still doesn't make it easy, like knowing that there's an audience that's going to listen to whatever story you're writing about.
Right. I think for me, like, the thing that is more difficult is for me to not be myself, or to like say something that is not true to me. So sometimes, as difficult as it is to be vulnerable and honest, it's harder for me to pretend to be something that I'm not. So it's okay with me to talk about things that maybe other people don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about. Because as long as I know I'm being true to myself and I'm speaking my truth, then whatever people think about it is not my problem. It's their problem.
Once it's out, it's not even yours anymore.
It's not mine anymore. Exactly. Yeah.
That's a great. I mean, that's a great way to put it. With this song in particular, I love that you basically like co-wrote with Sir Nolan, and Sam DeJong was also part of it, who you also work with on this latest record. So that evolution, like, or do you remember going back to that initial song and like that first experience with them, and like how different is it now with this new record?
Well, I think the cool thing is that I've had um, I've been able to develop a really awesome relationship with like the people that I started working with making that first project, and even some of the people that I started working with when I was like 16 or 17. And so when we go back to work on new records, it always feels like, it just feels super natural. And even the first time I got into the studio with them, it just felt really natural. Yeah, if it feels good. It doesn't feel like, I don't know. Anytime we get back together, and I like to continue to work with the same people that I work with from the start, just because like I develop a relationship with them and I have good chemistry with them, and yeah, it feels good. I'm still working with the same people that I made my first album with, so I think that's good, right? I don't know. It's nice to experiment and to work with other people too. Like on this new album, I work with a writer that I hadn't worked with before named Sam Romans, and we wrote like 6 or 7 songs together, and we just clicked, and now hopefully he's someone that I'll be working with, for a decade or longer or whatever. But when you find someone, it's rare to find people that you really gel with. So when you do, it's good to keep them close and try and collaborate with them as frequently as you can.
Yeah, it must be a scary process though. Like when you're ready to write with someone new.
It is.
Like, how do you open up to them, or how does that session kind of kickstart? Romans in particular, like, what was that initial session like?
Well, it can be very uncomfortable sometimes when you don't necessarily. When you're not on the same page as somebody else, which it's like going on a date. You have the same anxieties as you do as when you ask somebody out and you're pulling up to the restaurant or whatever. It's like it's very nerve-wracking. But I think actually like this like sort of round of sessions was different from any of the ones that I had done in the past, because it was during the so I actually like part of having a Zoom session with someone is actually more nerve-wracking, because it's like you can't be in the room with them, so you can't relate to them like physically. You're not sitting across the room, or you're not sitting across like the studio desk from them or whatever, so that can make it weird. But actually at the beginning of the session I was like nervous and like turned the Zoom on or whatever, and then I just was sort of like at this point where I was so frustrated with a lot of the stuff that was going on like in the world, and because of I was just like, look, this is the kind of weird stuff I want to talk about in my songs, and like if you're not down for it, then like that's totally cool. Like we don't have to finish the session, but this is what I want to say. And he was like, well, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, well, I want to write a song about Nancy Pelosi getting a haircut. And he was like, let's do it. And I was like, okay. And then like from that point on, it was just like it was sorry, my foot just touched your knee, and then I feel like I have to acknowledge it in order to move forward. But yeah, from that point on, like when he was like down to talk about that. I was like, this guy's cool. Because sometimes we'd be in a session and you'd be like, hey, like, I feel like talking about, talking about Nancy Pelosi's haircut. And people would be like, that's cool. But, what if we write a song about, like, are you in a relationship? Are you dating anyone right now? It's like, okay, like, this is, and sometimes I have the patience for that. And, had no patience for that. So any sessions that I wasn't vibing, I was just like, hey, look, like maybe we just do this another day. But with him, it worked. And then I started calling him every day, and I would call him like, it would be like, sometimes it'd be like, 1 a.m. I'd be like, bro, I have this idea, like, can we work on this or whatever? And a really awesome creative relationship blossomed between the both of us. But it's rare. You have to do like 15 or 20 sessions before you find one person that you really vibe with, which, it's like, that makes sense. Yeah.
What's that like? Like literally, you can just call them anytime you have something in mind or whatever. Like, is there like a rule for the producer artist kind of rule where it's like from these hours to these hours you can't, or it's just like whenever you have an idea, let me know.
Well, I mean, he's like he just had a baby, and like probably not gonna call him at like 1 a.m. now or whatever. But yeah, I mean, people have boundaries. Yeah. I mean, I find those boundaries quick, especially like during the. Because I was like, I would call people or whatever. I mean, normally if you call them and it's too late, they just don't answer. Yeah. But, you can't necessarily control when you have ideas. So it's nice to have, a couple of people that you can call, that you trust, that you can run ideas by, at any hour of the day. But, you have to be respectful of people's time. It's also he's another human being. Like, they have a family and other things to do. So, yeah, there are boundaries. But, I find the boundaries by crossing them. Yeah.
So Romans was basically the third the newest addition to this team that you already had for this record. So when you're going from these three producers, like how are you able to kind of keep that same kind of vibe, same kind of tone throughout this record?
So, well, I think ultimately at the core of it, what drives the record is, I like to find people who in their own right, would be able to write a song if there was nobody with them or whatever. But also I like people that let me be in the driver's seat so that I can kind of steer. And I think like, me being the common denominator between all of these sessions is ultimately what keeps everything cohesive. But like I normally start with like one track or whatever that's like produced and kind of use that as like a blueprint for kind of sonically what I want the rest of the record to sound like. And when you get to work with producers like Nolan or Sam or well, they're both Sam Romans or Sam DeYoung, who they all produce tracks on the album, it kind of be like, well, sonically, like this is what I'm looking for. And after you write the song, they all bring their own flair to it, which I think is good because they don't all sound exactly the same, but I think they fit together on the record nicely. It's I don't know. I feel like what makes it kind of like cohesive is me. It's my album. So I think that as long as I'm, like I said, like as long as I'm being honest, as long as the lyrics come from my heart, and if I listen to a track and I feel like it represents me, even if the sonic palette is slightly different from track to track, as long as I feel comfortable with it, I just sort of hope that if I'm true to myself, then it will all come across as me, and I hope that that's what keeps it cohesive. And I think also working with the same people over time is what also keeps things, together. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, I love with your music. Like one of the things that also like caught my attention is that I can never go into a song. I can never go into a song and be like, this is the vocal tone that I'm going to hear throughout, or this is the cadence that I'm going to hear throughout. You always tend to change up your cadence throughout every single song. Is that something that just happens naturally for you, like when you're writing music, or is that something that when you're jumping into the studio, it's like, all right, I want to step up my tempo here, like mid song, or what is that process like for you?
Well, I think like I don't necessarily realize or notice the changes as much as maybe other people who have a bird's eye view of like I'm so deep in it that it kind of, in all honesty, like it doesn't, it's hard for me to tell the difference from like, yeah. And then I feel like as I grow and as I evolve, things happen naturally that are not necessarily like, it's not necessarily a conscious decision. So it's hard for me to answer that question because I feel like I'm just doing what feels right. So if it's good to hear that there, it feels like there's some variation because sometimes I feel like I don't have enough variation. So nice, yeah.
I mean that, and just like being able to use like hums as some kind of instrument. You always find a new way to kind of make it sound different, which is really cool. Like I don't know, like how do you not run out of that kind of material or like that style?
Well, my favorite, before I played guitar, I sang. The first thing that I fell in love with about music was just like singing and the way singing made me feel. I love like when you're with a group of people or you're in front of a group of people and you're kind of like all resonating at the same frequency and sort of everyone is sort of brought together by like they're all watching and you're singing and it kind of feels like you sort of all, I don't know, you're all sort of vibrating at the same frequency. It's like an amazing feeling. And so the most important instrument for me is my voice. So I like to use my voice in as many ways as I possibly can. And also now too, as the world is increasingly more and more online, everybody's kind of using the same samples. Everyone's like pulling from the same stuff on Splice or whatever. It's like that's why you have like a Justin Bieber song that has like a sample from someone else's song. It's like, which is fine too because everybody uses the samples in their own unique ways. But I feel like nobody has my voice. I'm the only one that has my voice, and you're the only one that has your voice or whatever. And so I feel like one of the things that makes me unique is the particular way, my voice sounds because of the anatomy of my body. And so the way the more ways in which I can use my voice, I feel like the better because it will make my record sound more unique to me.
And in that same sense, one of the things that I was like a little worried about in the beginning of your career was that you started so young. So your voice was still going to change.
Right. It changed a lot.
It changed a lot, but when I'm listening to your music, like it doesn't seem like it was that drastic. Like, it might.
It's always been high. It's always been very high. My voice has always been very high. Yeah. I mean, I'm 28 now, so I don't think at this point, like it's, it's like it is where it is. I mean, ultimately, as you get older, even people who like, James Taylor still has his voice, which is pretty cool because he's got a high voice and it still sounds great. Paul McCartney sounds great too. But you listen to like Billy Joel or Elton John, even though they still sound great, their voices have dropped slightly. So I suppose like maybe in my 40s or 50s, my voice will go down. But I think I've got like a good 10 more years like this. So yeah, because sometimes people do, they hit puberty and it's like it's game over.
Did you have any issues though, like as you were getting older, like in trying to kind of rediscover your voice or try and find that like that comfortable tone again, or has it just been comfortable this entire time?
Yeah, well, there were times where I was like kind of like imitating other people a little bit to like sort of find my own sound. Like I love James Morrison. I love like I used to listen to a singer named Justin Ozuka. He had like a kind of like a raspier voice, and I was like for a while I was trying to intimidate. What did I say? Imitate. Did I say imitate before or intimidate?
You said intimidate.
I know how to speak English. All right, I try to imitate other people. I'm not trying to intimidate my favorite singers, although maybe one day if I have to go up against them 1v1. I try to imitate other people, and then as I got older, I kind of like found my voice, and I sort of became more comfortable with the fact that my voice is I just have a high voice that sits sort of in this like high upper tenor range. And I can't remember what the question was now that I'm embarrassed that I used the wrong word. What was the question?
As you were growing and your voice was kind of changing, like did you find yourself struggling to find that comfortable zone or tone for you?
Yeah, I did, but I played around with a lot of different things. At first too, like it's when you watch other singers who can do like a lot of cool things, you're like, oh, maybe I want to try that. And I tried out like doing the runs and like singing like Valerie, and like listening to Amy Winehouse and listening to old soul records and stuff. And ultimately, it kind of like I love to listen to that music, but I ultimately felt like that was not necessarily the thing that fit my voice the best. I think like as an artist, what you do is you kind of you have to know like the palette, the colors in the palette that you're painting with, and you have to understand your voice first and like and the context in which it makes the most sense. And so sort of I started playing around with my voice and trying out different things, and I thought I would sing like in different genres and stuff, and I'd be like, okay, well this isn't right, or this doesn't fit here. Like you don't have to have like classically like the best voice in order to make a great record. You just have to know how to use your voice. Like Tom DeLonge and
One of my favorites. I can't believe that's who you named. Out of everyone in the world, you named Tom
when
DeLonge.
you listen to him, it's not like he's not Adele, but he understands his voice. I think the most important thing about being an artist is trying to be like as self-aware as you can possibly be. So because what you have to do is sort of like shift. You have to decide in which context your voice fits the best. And if you don't understand your voice first, it's not possible to do that. So I ultimately sort of found that like my voice, I love singer-songwriters. I love John Mayer. I love Jason Mraz. I don't sing sort of he does a lot of stuff in like major keys, which for me, because my voice is so high, it doesn't always necessarily fit. It sounds too sweet. So I found like having like some minor chords and stuff like in the pocket where like The Devil Doesn't Bargain or Let Me Down Slowly is, or like, I also have other songs like Jesus in LA and Nancy Got a Haircut and things that are like a little bit more major. But for some reason, that sort of minor thing with my voice, that juxtaposition between like the sweetness of my voice and like the sort of like somber sort of minor chords, it fits. Yeah.
Do you think about it a lot, like when you're like for uncommentary, for example, as a whole? Like, did you think about that sweet spot during the writing process or even the recording process of these tracks?
You know what? I tried to not think about it at all, actually, because I think in the past, like especially after the success of Let Me Down Slowly, it was like very scary for me to be like, okay, well, do I got to do that again? And I was really, really, although ultimately at the end of the day, I ended up putting out the songs that I felt best represented me and wrote the songs that I wanted to write, but I struggled for a long time trying to recreate that. And then I put out Mind is a Prison, which is like a different song, which is the first single from my second album. And I think it didn't necessarily do the same thing, but I was proud of it. So like I said, like I can only be myself. And on this record though, what I tried to do is not care. I didn't have any preconceived notions about what I was trying to create. I just went into it like, this is how I feel. But a lot of times my voice does end up in that lane,
Yeah. What would you say, like, what track out of these 13 tracks would you say like really challenged you? Whether it was the writing process or like the actual recording process?
I would say that honestly, this album kind of just flew out of me, and I wrote it in like 2-3 months, and then it just kind of put a bow on it, and that was it. Like I had the songs. Now, like the choosing of the songs was always hard, and like figuring out which songs you're gonna use, and like I have management that helps me do that. Like Nathan, who's sitting right there, picked most of the songs, but in particular, I didn't even like The Devil Doesn't Bargain, and he was like, "This is trust me, like put this on the record."
It's a single.
I mean, it's become one. I feel like the people choose. It's like people hear the record, they like the song, and if that's the song that resonates with people, like then that's the one that becomes the single ultimately. But we didn't put it out as a single because I didn't want to. Yeah, I was like, I don't think it's even gonna go on the record, but then it did. But the recording process for this album was like pretty cool because, well, it wasn't cool, but it was easy because I did it in the comfort of my own home. I had like my mic in my living room and I just recorded because everybody was it just was like felt pretty easy. My dog was with me. I just recorded. That was it. Yeah. It was very, very different from the normal recording process of like having to drive all the way to the studio and then sort of like do all the takes or whatever. Like I picked, I did like 8 takes or whatever for a lot of them. For some of them, I recorded in the studio with Nolan. The only studio work I did was in the studio with Nolan. The rest of it was at my house.
I mean, I guess it made you a producer in a sense. Like you kind of learned how to pick it up.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it made me a producer. I like literally I didn't even set up a vocal chain. Like I literally just recorded my vocal like straight up like dry into Logic and just sent it to them.
Straight on the iPhone. That's what it was.
I did. Some of them were on the iPhone. Like I recorded a song on my iPhone during which honestly like the iPhone microphone sounds great. Yeah. So yeah.
One of the songs that sticks out to me, and I ended up having to put it on repeat because I was just like, it was just such a creative idea. Like, but I'm sure there's like a deeper tone or a deeper like reasoning why you wrote it was One Wrong Turn. And for some reason, like the whole situation of she made a right when she could have made a left, or like, I don't know, that one just hit differently. What was it about that song that like what kickstarted the writing process for that song?
That was the last song that I wrote for the album. And can we hear? Are we gonna be able to hear that in the mic? Okay. I have ADD, so if I'm hearing like there's a buzzing sound happening right now that whoever's watching this can't hear, and it's making it difficult for me to focus. But we'll get through it. So that was the last song that I wrote for the record, and I felt like there was a lot of things going on at the time that I felt like, look at the crazy U-turn or 180, or the crazy turn that the universe took or the world took over the last few years. And I was just thinking about like how crazy it is that you can do all of the right things and you could make one mistake, and it can ruin everything. And then I was driving to Nolan's house, and I was thinking about, we were gonna write a song, and I had texted him the night before. I just wanted to write a song, just cause, and I didn't brainstorm any ideas before. So I was looking in my car, I was looking at my phone, like trying to come up with some ideas, and then I realized like, well, this could ultimately kill me, and I'm trying to come up with an idea for my session, but like I could die. And then I was like, oh well, maybe I should write about that. And I tried to come up with a couple of stories that I felt would sort of encapsulate that emotion. But also at the time, there was like a tragic thing that happened, actually not too far from here. There was a girl that I knew, who was working in a store, and she was murdered.
Oh, yeah.
Just randomly. Crazy. Like, no one's fault. Like, just went into work that day, and it's like, anything could happen at any point. Maybe you're not even making a mistake. Maybe you're just like I said in the song, like you're taking a right or you're taking a left. It's like, and it's, you never know what's behind any door that you're gonna open. I don't know. I don't know if that's the song. Yeah, that's what it's about. Yeah.
I don't know. That one just like hit different, and I was just like, wow, this is insane. Like, because I haven't had like, you usually have like songs that just like get you into it, like into your feels, like for some reason, and like, fortunately, I haven't experienced any of that like with friends or whatever. But like, I don't know. It just hit home for some reason. I was like, why? Why is this hitting me?
Well, I feel like everybody has that in their life, where they do one thing or they make one mistake or just sort of make one decision that ultimately like puts them in a position they never imagined they would be in, and they go, well, how the hell did that happen? It's like nobody knows, but one choice you make can ruin everything sometimes, or it can be the best choice you ever made. Either way, it could go either way.
That's true. Now, since this record has been out, you are getting ready to go back on the road.
Yes.
I feel like you've been touring like as soon as the world opened up, I feel like you've been touring nonstop. That's what it's felt like. So the Uncommentary tour kicks off September 8th in Texas, I believe.
Yes.
Claire Rosencrantz is the direct support,
Yep.
and then you have Sarah Kay's on a couple dates.
Mm-hmm.
What can we look forward to on this tour?
Also, I have to add, there's a few shows where we have Sarah Cawthron and Madeline the Person. And they're great. Yeah, they're playing a few select shows, and it's going to be rad. And sorry, what was your question? I just wanted to add that. Yeah.
Like, how do you make it different, knowing that you've been literally touring, like, for the last, I don't know, year and a half?
Well, so I never got a chance to tour my second album, These Two Windows. So I had that tour that I had announced and sold the tickets to like 3 years prior. And then the second that, like, before the like scared everybody back into their house, we toured that record. And so I think the Uncommentary tour is new because we're playing all of these songs that we've never played before. So we have an entirely new set. It's also a band that North America hasn't really seen yet, and that's how we make it new, I guess. I don't know. I love playing shows. I feel like the band and we just keep getting better and better and better, and every time, I think every time we come back to a city, I think the show evolves, and it's fun to sing these songs to people. I don't know. I love touring. Yeah.
But how do you not burn out? I guess that's the main question, just because it has been nonstop for you.
I do burn out.
How do you how do you go about it? Like, how, you still seem, you're still announcing more shows, and you're still going on tour.
The alternative is to not do it, and
that's true.
I don't want that. So you just deal with it. You have a great team of people around you that, like, when you freak out or whatever, they're able to pick up the pieces and help you figure it out and get you back out there so that you can do what you love. So it's just about having a good team of people that are there to help you and work through the problems. But ultimately, I think that, I never felt as low in my life as I did during the. And so, anything that could ultimately happen to me out on the road is not going to be as bad as that. So I'm ready to get back out there. Yeah.
What was it about Claire and Sarah Kay's? Well, I guess, what was it about all four artists that you wanted to bring them out on the road?
Well, so I think that for Sarah, I just like I love her lyrics and I love the way that she writes songs. And her and I actually became friends like during the we just connected. And I didn't even know that she had been to some of my shows, and she was a fan of mine, and she has my merch and stuff. And it was like we just like sort of became friends, and I really love and respect her songwriting, and she's got an amazing voice, and she also is amazing live, so that was cool. And Claire, I actually I found out about her through my management, my booking agent. They sent me her music, and I played her Spotify like top 5 songs or whatever while I was in my car driving up to LA, and I was like, well, this girl's like really cool. And she was actually thinking about doing a different tour at the time, and I was like, yo, we got to get her to do this tour. And ultimately we were able to do that. So yeah, she's awesome. And then Madeline and Sarah, also most new music I find through other people. So my booking agent had sent me their songs, and I was like, well, they're great. Are they available for any shows? And he was like, yeah, they can do these shows. I was like, all right, let's do it. Yeah. So that's how. It's not that eventful, but their music is great. So
But the fact that you're listening to it, like I feel like that would mean a lot to those artists, knowing that you actually listen to the song, you actually
you have to. I mean, you can't just like go on a tour and like not have.
True, but I can't say that's I can't say that that's across the board.
I would think that it's pretty close to well, maybe not. Well, I don't know, but I know for me personally, I wouldn't want to go out on the road and like find out who the opening act is on the first day.
I don't like this music.
I mean, yeah, it also like it's yeah, I want to pick artists to go out on tour with me that I vibe with, and also that I think would be a good fit for the audience, and that that they have music that I would want to stand behind. Like even I went on tour with Anson Seabra. I love his music, and I also really love him as a person, so that was great. He's having a birthday party this weekend, so I'm going to.
We're all invited?
I know. I don't know. It's up to him.
Well, Alec, I'm excited to finally get to sit down with you and talk music. Thank you so much for what you've created so far. To close us off, with this most recent record, Uncommentary, what has been your proudest moment of this record?
I hope my proudest moment of this record is yet to come. But I would say that my proudest moment of the record is... Well, that's a great question. I think my proudest moment of the record is finally getting a song to go viral on TikTok. It's happened to me. It's actually... I'm fortunate enough to where it's happened a few different times. But, the industry right now is just so heavily reliant on the ebbs and flows of TikTok virality, and so the fact that we were able to sort of engineer that was nice.
You officially made it into the music world.
Yeah, I made it back in, Yeah, but I hope that I have more moments to come that will make me proud. Who knows? Yeah. I don't know. My proud moment is finishing the record, putting it out, not going totally crazy during the... Yeah.
Well, congratulations with the release. You guys be sure to check out Alec Benjamin on tour. September 8th is when it kickstarts. And thanks for watching here on Front Row Live.